Speaking of incoming, Facebook, how did you rattle the cage of one of the richest, most powerful men in the world, ma'am?
Yeah, oops. I think these people should learn by now. Don't come after me. Don't come after the war room. Don't come after the war room posse. And certainly don't come after you. I had wanted to come on the show today just to simply break the story, which is that one of these huge Silicon Valley based, left-wing tech funds that doles out billions of dollars annually, whose number one benefactor, by the way, is Mark Zuckerberg. Well, believe it or not, they've actually been funding some of the groups that are currently suing President Trump, whether it's Treasury, Doge, OPM, education, the kind of Schedule F stuff, you name it. But apparently the New York Times beat me to it because they're already running cover and shilling for Mark Zuckerberg. They put out a whole story where, frankly, they demean me. They called me a right-wing influencer. Last time I checked, I'm a co-host, White House correspondent, and investigative reporter. But I guess that's part of the smear campaign. They didn't even ask for my comment. They simply said that the allegations that I put forth in my story that was well documented from primary sources and financial records was fake news. And this is the best part. Their defense, they're saying that because the Silicon Valley Community Foundation is a donor-advised fund, right? So a lot of people give money to it. It's then pooled and they distribute it to charities that they deem appropriate. Well, Mark Zuckerberg said, well, maybe it wasn't us. It could have been one of the 1,000 other people who've donated to it. To which I would say, Mark Zuckerberg, maybe instead of trying to trash me and this show in the New York Times, you should be dedicating that energy to condemning and disavowing the group that you're funding with what, 1/100th of a degree of separation? Last time I checked, if you want to depict yourself as, the newfound MAGA convert, you should want absolutely no ties or connections with any entities that, like I said, are actively suing President Trump. And Steve, I would just like to double down on the veracity and truthfulness of my claims, but I would also like to add that this group didn't just fund Protect Democracy to the tune of over $4 million over the course of 3 years, which, like I said, is suing President Trump and is part of the Democracy Forward Coalition, which has dozens of lawsuits against President Trump. But this, like I said, California-based foundation, well, they actually bankroll Planned Parenthood, ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Brennan Center, all of those entities which played a very crucial role in trying to keep President Trump off the ballot in 2024. And lastly, I would just add that if Mark Zuckerberg wants to take the defense of, well, the reason why I didn't maybe fund this one left-wing organization
Natalie, hang on for 1 second. We'll take a short break. Return a second. Explain to the audience why this is so important, because Zuckerberg is now trying to become a new court jester in the court of the Sun King. And in doing so, people are pointing at him that he may have been involved in certain nefarious activities against MAGA and against President Trump. Is that correct?
Of course. I would say go back to the metaverse and stay there. Mark Zuckerberg, with him and all these sort of big tech guys, the past is prologue. What do I mean by that? All of these organizations that over their lifetimes they've given, you're talking about billions of dollars to. I mean, I buried the lead, this one group, the SCVF. Mark Zuckerberg is their top donor and donated nearly $2 billion worth of Facebook stock. As of 2018, I'm sure it's only grown. These groups, right, the dark money apparatus that you hear us talk about so much, a cornerstone, a bedrock, I mean, a pillar of that, if not probably the overwhelming majority of it, is this sort of class of tech bro types, of which Mark Zuckerberg is one of the leading examples. And now, frankly, I think it's insulting to the intelligence of the MAGA movement, to the people who watch this show, that you think our standards are so low that just because you give a $1 million donation, the minimum to make it, 7 figures, so you can get your nice seat at the inauguration, that all of a sudden that makes you a MAGA convert. Because it only takes me about probably 3.5 seconds to look through the history of the organizations that Mark Zuckerberg and his Chan Zuckerberg Initiative have donated to very, very quickly surpass that $1 million figure. So I would like to just, refresh the memory of whatever Meta spokesperson spoke with the New York Times today, which, like I underscored, never reached out to me for comment on this piece. That shows you, I guess, shilling for billionaires is just what the New York Times wants to do, unchecked and unopposed. But their group, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, has given hundreds of grants to basically exclusively left-wing organizations, including some that are responsible for what we just witnessed, America's open borders, $1 million to the National Immigration Forum, $550,000 to the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, $200,000 to the American Immigration Council, $150,000 to the Black Alliance for Just Immigration. They've also given $1.6 million to the Civil Rights Corps. I could read on the entire show, all of these left-wing nonprofit, which in reality are activist organizations, over $3 million to the Tide Center, which bankrolled the Lawfare against President Trump. I mean, freaking the former president of Chan Zuckerberg Initiative was David Plouffe. So spare me any idea that this entity is not something that's overtly political. They've given millions of dollars to groups that actively advocate for defunding the police. They're actually partners with a website that I believe is called defundthepolice.org, forward.us, which is one of the leading open borders advocacy groups in the United States, which back in the first Trump administration actively opposed and lobbied against his immigration agenda. They fought for the DACA Dreamer people to stay. Mark Zuckerberg co-founded that organization, and I'm old enough to remember the Center for Tech and Civic Life, hundreds of millions of dollars that they doled out to rig the 2020 election. But Steve, the issue really isn't even Mark Zuckerberg. Yes, it's partly him, but the issue is that congressional Republicans, like, for example, Jim Jordan, who when Mark Zuckerberg came out, a few months ago and did his big mea culpa, put out that, only 1.5-page letter when you adjust for the spacing and the signature saying, yeah, I'm sorry, I guess I rigged the 2020 election, put no footnotes on his assertion that actually the grants weren't rigging the election. They were to make the election, equitable and fair. I never saw any evidence to prove that. Congressional Republicans lauded that as a huge victory and a big win. So of course, Mark Zuckerberg is going to think that if they just do some puff piece in the New York Times, that they're going to be able to get away with it. Well, you know what? The facts and the receipts don't lie. And it's a continued pattern of behavior. And even if Mark Zuckerberg did have a conversion, he should come out and disavow this organization, because his money, maybe indirectly, maybe directly, is being used not just to fund this one-off organization that's suing Trump, but to prop up a dark money apparatus that is out to destroy, weaponize, bankrupt, and imprison the entire MAGA movement. So the Meta team, who I guess wants to talk with me and get their side of the story out there, how about this? I'll sit down for an hour-long interview with Mark Zuckerberg, and we can have an on-camera discussion about what his funds, what his billions of dollars were doing. And I would encourage him to try to say, I didn't know. I don't think that quite holds. You know exactly what you were doing, in part because you were the co-founder of a lot of these organizations. So I'm really sick and tired of these tech bros who think this show, this audience, and people like myself, who are not influencers, but we're co-hosts, are so dumb that we're just going to pick up whatever slop they'll give us because he donated $1 million to Trump and got a haircut and works out now. It's disgusting, and we're going to keep hunting these people down. They thought this was going to scare me off their path. How about that?
Natalie, fantastic. Natalie, where do we go for your social media? I know you're going to be on this one over the weekend. Fantastic rant.
Thank you. I get mad sometimes. It's Natalie G. Winters on all social media platforms, probably except Facebook, but I'm okay with that.
No, I want to work on that. I'm not so sure Zuckerberg could do an interview, but we'll figure out some way for you to pierce the shell over there, because
in the metaverse, maybe.
This is a big one. It shows you also how much they want to clean up their past to try to show their citizens in good standing. I mean, they're very nervous about this.
As they should be.
As they should be. Natalie, fantastic. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Fantastic work. We'll see you later.